Welcome to Inner Space and welcome to those watching us online. Our theme this evening is flowing without losing. And we have Sister Meera with us. Meera runs the activities in Slough area, and she's been meditator for about 40 years. And also she works as a part-time teacher assistant, and also a mother and a grandmother. And, on a personal note, I would say very sweet, very gentle, but very efficient in many ways. And also love for God, love for spirituality is visible in everything she does and on her face. So without further ado, I welcome Sister Meera to come and share her thoughts on this theme.
Om Shanti. I trust you all know the term Om Shanti. Anyone who doesn't know what Om Shanti means here? Yes, everybody? Very good. Okay, so Om Shanti, greeting of peace and an affirmation of who I truly am. So I am a soul, and I am a peaceful soul, a being of peace. So firstly, I'd like to say thank you to Bai. Thank you to Bai first for that. Thank you to Inner Space Wembley for inviting me here. And thank you to all of you for attending this evening talk, and also warm welcome to all who are online. So yes, so when I was presented with this topic of flowing without losing, I wasn't really sure about, what that means, because normally we say going with the flow, and going with the flow is always seen as kind of good thing. But what does it mean if you're going with the flow and not losing? And as I was just contemplating that for a few moments, I realized that life is a flow, a continuous flow. It's a flow of time. It's a flow of the day, the cycle, the rhythm, and even our own lives is a continual flow. Our bodies change, and it's a different time period of where we are. I'm sure all of us who are aging a little bit like myself, we notice that, we have to accept changes. And if we don't go with that and we try and fight that, like we recently discovered that I can't do the same things I used to do. And I think, that's not good. Let me push through this. We can actually do damage to our bodies. And so, as is very beautifully in this subject, it's kind of knowing when to go with the flow, and when to let go. When do I? And to know when to do that, actually, when is the right time. So let's take the subject of our own physical bodies, because they take up a lot of our time and attention, right? Especially when they're not working for us. So they're not flowing with where I want to go. And it's not moving with me the way I want it to. And that can really, really take up our time and thoughts. And I think that's when it's really, really important to know, now I need to step back, surrender to these changes, And now think about how I can actually flow with this new situation with my body. It could be anything. You could have just had an operation recently. Maybe you have to rest for some while and you don't want to because that's not your thing. You usually like to be on the go. And yet when I accept and then I surrender to that, but then I can actually create a new way. So it's not that, oh, well, I can't do the things I used to do. And so now I come to a standstill. No, I can adjust things. I can adjust. For example, recently I've had to adjust things. Before I could be on my feet for hours and hours and do all the housework, in one go. And sometimes I honestly could take me hours and I'd be fine. But nowadays, I notice, no, it's not so good for me to do that. So you're still moving with whatever. Yes, sure. Oh, have you? Okay. Right. Well, I have no clue because I can't hear that. Okay. Well, it'll stop. Oh, yes. Yes. I can hear it now. All right. You want me to start the whole thing again then? There you are. There's an example of, let's just wait. Go with it. It's fine. So maybe we can take this time just to think about our own flow and where we need to actually stop sometimes. Okay, so for personally, you just take that time for yourself now. Try again. Can we hear anything? It's, yes, yes, yes. I thought I could hear myself echoing somewhere. Okay, is that better? All right, great. Well, I think that was a good example of just waiting and seeing and actually using those moments to have a little inner reflection on the subject. Okay, so maybe we just carry on. Is that okay? Yeah, okay. It's back again. Is it a problem? Well, you let me know. Okay. Sure. Okay. Right. Mystery. Okay. So don't know. Yeah. So that's one thing we need to be mindful of. We need to be mindful of any changes happening within our physical body. That's really, really important. And it's not just the physical body, but changes can happen in our mental capacity as well. I know we all have those moments where I can't remember something or I can't remember where I put something. But if I'm noticing these things are happening more and more, it can be concerning and it can be worrying that, well, how can I just go with this? Surely I need to do something about it. And that's when I need to have that clarity of my mind to know that, oh, this is a time now where perhaps I need to take help. Because sometimes we don't want to admit, that there's something I need help with. Sometimes we don't want to admit that we need help, physically. All right. So, oh, that sounds better. Okay. So do you understand where like going at the moment? I'm sure you've experienced when something changes in your life, and it could be with your relationships, it could be maybe with your children, if you've got children who, you know, are growing up and they're changing. And as a parent, how many of you are parents here? A few, not everyone. Okay. Well, as a youngster yourself, when you were young, you would have yourself been aware that, you know, I'm changing, growing, my ideas are, you know, I've got different ideas to what I had. And those kind of things can sometimes be quite distressing for others, especially your parents, if they don't want to accept that. You know, they don't want to go with it. They would rather you didn't, you know, change, or you didn't behave in a way that they're not sure of. And we often find that when we are not able to accept natural changes, you know, the natural changes that will happen when children grow up, or when our bodies age, or when financial situations change. If I can't accept that, then really I'm fighting against that movement. And we all know, you know, the saying goes, go with the flow. And if you try and go against the flow, like in water, then it's hard work, right? It's more of a struggle to go against the tide of time, the tide of events. Now we see today people really try and go against the tide, the flow of time. Nobody wants to get old. Who wants to get old here? Who wants to look older? I mean, genuinely, everybody wants to try and stop that flow and try and go against it. And we do all sorts of things for it. Sure, okay. But if I become obsessed with that, you know, then I'm missing the point that it isn't aging that's the problem, and it's not the changes that are the issue, but it's where am I within all of that? And this is where spirituality and spiritual awareness of self comes in. Because one of the things that we learn here at the Brahma Kumaris is understanding this unchanging truth about who we are. It is unchanging, and it is a real, constant, stable fact. And if I can stay within that constant, stable truth of who I truly am, then even when events are flowing, time is passing, you know, it looks like the world's leaving me behind in some sense, you know. Maybe I can't walk as fast as I used to. Maybe technology has changed so much, I'm not really there. It won't matter, because you can still feel absolutely in control and whole and complete, whether you're able to flow with things or not. And you won't experience a loss of any kind, because losses come when we measure things from the physical aspect. You know, if you're measuring it in terms of physical gain, and these days it's about how many likes you have and things, you know, on your, I mean, that becomes a thing. And then I begin to measure myself by that. But that is not the true measure of what it means to flow and not lose, because I will lose. I lose my confidence. I'll lose my sense of peace. I'll lose my sense of worth, because I'm measuring it by these ever-changing things, these ever-changing factors. Now, I want to give you an example, actually, of something that did happen to me not long ago. And it was interesting because I had been gardening, and I think this is about 5-6 weeks ago, maybe now, can't remember. And for some reason, I don't know, I was getting rid of old soil, you know, from my pots to put new flowers in. Anyway, all of a sudden I rubbed my eyes and I could feel this itching. And this eye literally came up like a small plum. and it totally closed, and it was very painful. The other eye settled down. This one didn't. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, what's caused that? How has this happened? So anyway, I did what you do, you know. I don't know about you, but it was the best A&E experience I ever had, because I went in one door and out the back door straight to the doctor. I didn't have to wait at all. Just the state of my eye, I think they could tell it was pretty serious. But anyway, it settled down quite quickly. You know, I got what I needed. And then they suggested go to an eye hospital just to check. Now, the day I went to the eye hospital was the day I had an online talk to do. So not coming physically, but an online talk. And I thought, yeah, I should make it back in time. And I'm sitting there, and this was supposed to be a quicker place than your emergency place. And I'm waiting and waiting and waiting, and I'm thinking, okay, the time's going, and I haven't been seen yet, and I have this talk to come on. And I remember not feeling any sense of, you know, panic or worry. I just remember phoning up and saying, look, I might not make it. I might be delayed. I don't know. So can you have somebody stand by to do it in case I don't make it? And that was it. I felt really comfortable with that. In a sense, I was going with the flow of the events. It was out of my control. I wasn't fighting it. Oh my goodness, you know, maybe I should just leave. Maybe I won't get seen now. What's going to happen? I didn't have any of those thoughts. It was fine. I had a plan. So when you when things are going the way where you can't control, then control what you can. So what I did was just phoned up and said, this is a situation, have somebody on standby. And you know what, very, very lovingly, they said, no problem, you know, you just look after yourself. And that was it. I sat back down, waited to be seen. And then I got seen. And then I thought to myself, oh, it looks like actually I could be in time for this talk. So then I just rang them and said, well, you know, it looks like I will get home in time. What would you like to do? So I wasn't like saying, oh, now, you know, change it. I just said, what do you want to do? Do you want to go with who you've got? And they said, no, it'd be good if you could. And I literally got back in the door at home through all the traffic and everything with 10 minutes to go to get online, you know, to get changed and everything, get online. And there was no panic. I didn't feel anything because I was just accepting everything as it was. 10 minutes was perfectly fine. And I just sat there like, you know, I hadn't been through anything at all. And this is what it means not to lose. So when events are out of your control, do what you can and just to accept, you know, this is where you surrender to it. You surrender to it because you can't lose in that. It's always win-win because you haven't lost your sense of self. You haven't lost your sense of peace. And you know that whatever the outcome will be is good. It's fine. Remember, the talk was going to be done anyway by somebody. So that was fine, you know. And I got seen, which was good, and everything was fine. And so you don't feel like you lose anything. Yeah? But when we come into competition, and when we want to, like, you know, prove ourselves or try and show that we're better or something, then that is like I'm forcing a situation. You know, I'm forcing something to happen. And whenever you feel in your life that you're trying to do something and it's not happening, just stop. Just absolutely stop and just leave it. Just leave it. Don't keep pushing it because it's not happening. So there must be a reason it's not happening, right? So therefore, I need to let go. But often we can't let go. No, this has to happen. I have to make this happen, you know, but that is forcing. So going with the flow generally is a good thing, but I must stay balanced and focused inside. So does this make sense? Does this make sense to you? Yeah? Without loss, that's the key. That's the key. I remember another time I was in a group, kind of discussion group, and the discussion was going away. Most people were all discussing the same thing and agreeing about something, right? Most of them in the group. And I remember inside thinking, I'm not really going with this. but I was part of the group, and we all broke up into smaller groups. And I could feel that this wasn't the right time for me to say, I don't actually agree with this, because it was the majority, right? So I just went with it. I didn't say anything at the time. I kept quiet. I listened. And then when the right time presented itself, when there was feedback time, sort of in a bigger group, then I heard that there were actually a few other people who were thinking the same thing, but they hadn't said anything. And then that was the right time for me then to be quite clear about why I felt that wasn't applicable. Do you see? So we should know when to hold back, for how long to hold something back, and then when to actually take action in something. That's very, very important to get it right. Children are very good at that. Now I've got children, and now I've got grandchildren. They absolutely know when's the right time to ask you something and when's not the right time. And they hold back and they know, okay, now I can ask for this. You have to be in a good mood. We used to wait for our parents to be in a good mood if we wanted something. So we would hold back and then we would ask for it then, So we have to have the wisdom of knowing what it is I need to say and when as well. Because sometimes we can just railroad, oh, well, it's right. And, it's a right thing. So I'm going to say it anyway. We all know people like that, right? We might be one of them ourselves, where we don't think about what we're saying. We don't think of the consequences. And we just say it. However, the comeback of that on me then is, maybe I've hurt somebody's feelings. Yeah. It's because I said it like that. And then that's not good for me. It doesn't make me feel good, no? So not always about just railroading ahead and getting things done and said, but take time. We have these beautiful pictures behind us, and what I love about the teachings here, it really is absolutely about understanding and having the wisdom to know how I should be in the times, in which I'm living. Like the times in which we're living now, many of us will agree are different to the times maybe we grew up in. So before, I remember when I was a child, we never locked our back door. We didn't lock our back doors. We went out, the back door was always open and nothing happened. It was fine. But, now you need to understand, well, maybe that's not the thing to do now anymore. If I say, oh, no, that was the good old days, I'm still not, I'm still going to leave my door open. Situations and times have changed. So going with the flow without loss is respecting the flow. Respect movement. Life is movement. Time is a great teacher, and it's forever moving. It's never stopping. Time is man-made and created. However, life and energy is continually flowing, continually moving. Yeah? Doesn't stop. There's no stopping. There's change. There can be transformation, just like in the 4 seasons, for example. Right? And we're seeing it beautifully now. Plants which look dead, suddenly they're flowering. Yeah? And this is time. Time is making it happen. That's the time for it to happen. If I say, oh, why doesn't it happen in the winter? Why doesn't it happen in the autumn? Then I'm just giving myself difficulty. I have to accept that, right? And we actually flow with events more than we think. Because when it's a hot day, we go with it, don't we? We make sure we're wearing cool clothes or cooler clothes. And when it's really, really cold, we're automatically, without even thinking, flowing in that way. If I don't, then I will feel discomfort, and that's where the loss comes. So how can I be free from this sense of loss and discomfort? And I suppose the biggest test is when we lose something precious to us in our life. It could be anything. It could be your car. It might be the most precious thing to you. It's usually loved ones and relationships. And when we lose a loved one or we lose something very precious to us, that is when I need to know very clearly, how do I go with this flow and not experience loss right now? Because definitely when we lose a loved one, we lose something precious in our life, for a moment we do feel that, right? I wouldn't say you don't. We do feel it. Nobody wants it to happen. But we know it's inevitable. It is going to happen at some point. So maybe earlier, sooner than expected. But how do I not feel a sense of loss with this natural flow of time? Because here we realize that energy keeps moving, and I am a being of spiritual energy. This matter, this body, the molecules and everything, and all these have been changing. Everything's been changing in this body, and it's been aging. That's the movement. But I, the spiritual being who sits in this body, and deep in the brain, that infinitesimal point of spiritual energy, I have to understand that things will move in front of me. They will come, they will stay for a while, they will move on. And that's the natural flow of life. If I can have that wisdom to be aware of that every moment, then instead of experiencing loss and sorrow when these changes come, I can change it. I can change it to a deep sense of gratitude. I give thanks to that person for having been in my life. You know, I celebrate what I had, and I retain those memories. And I wish that soul well, because the soul doesn't die. So even though we may feel we lost someone, you can't lose anyone. There is an example I can give you of my own self. When one of my children, he was very young actually. He was going in for an emergency appendix. You know, it had ruptured, and he was young. He was even younger than Lavia here. And I was a meditator at that time, by the way. I was practicing meditation. And, you know, I took him to the hospital, and I'm sure some of you know that, you know, you're allowed to go so far with them in the trolley up to the operating theatre, then you can't go in. And then they told me, okay, you can wait in the family room. And as he was going in, I could actually feel myself getting really, really emotional. I was actually getting quite concerned that he's gone in for this emergency operation. And so I took myself to the family room. There was no one in there. And I just sat down in that room, because this is an event, right? I couldn't control. And I sat in there and I just sat with myself, and I did go into a meditative state. And you know what? I had the most beautiful experience I'll never forget. It was like God, spiritual supreme soul, was saying to me, you can't lose him ever. You won't lose him. That didn't mean, you know, whether he'll be alive or not, but it was like, you can't lose him. And what I experienced was that he handed me this. Who has seen these? I'm sure you know about them. These little things that you shake. What are they called again? Where the snow comes down. You know, those little shakers. They have pictures in them. I forgot what it's called. But anyway, he showed me one of those, and he handed it to me, and it was like the shape of an egg. And he was saying, he won't be lost. He's just, if he's not here in the physical realm, then he'll be here in this higher spiritual realm. And so it was like he made all the world small and handed it to me and said, here you are, it's in your hand. he's in here. He'll be here somewhere. He can never be lost. You know. So like we think, oh, we lose somebody, they go to another world, they're lost, and God made it very small and handed to me, and said, you won't lose him. He's here, so he'll be here somewhere. And that was so comforting. You know, that feeling was amazing. I've never forgotten that experience. And of course, he came out fine. The operation, it was fine. It was all okay. But that was a very, very valuable lesson. And I took that as a gift. You know, okay, I don't want my kids to have another emergency. Actually, another child also had another appendix out. But there was something good in that for me, you know. It taught me something beautiful, and I received a beautiful gift, an insight that you can't lose anybody. And that's the truth. Because when the human soul leaves, the person you loved still exists somewhere. They're still existing. It's just that they're not in my vision. So always remember them with love. Always remember them with gratitude, and always wish them well. Your parents are very good at doing that. Even if they're worried about something, they don't want their children to know. Yeah, they'll hide it as much as possible, and they'll keep smiling and saying, everything's okay. When I passed my driving test, I won't tell you after how many goes, but when I finally passed it, I was so excited. I wanted to take the children out, you know, and then I panicked because I was on my own, and literally we were nearly there. The signs were there, and I was panicking inside, and I thought, oh no, I'm here. And I all of a sudden, you know, I'm on my own with these children, and I think I've got lost. And then I pulled myself together. I said, right, get yourself together. You're scaring them. Then I just smiled and said, yes, it'll be fine. We'll get there. And we did. So always find a positive in any negative situation, because there is. You might not think there is, but there is. As the saying goes, there is always a silver lining. But the cloud looks bigger, right? Around every cloud, there is a silver lining, and I need to find it. And that's what makes us stronger and makes us stable. And then we never experience loss in any situation. Yeah? Does that make sense? Can you do that? Or do you think there's a situation where you can't? Anyone want to ask anything? Very quiet. This is your session. Or do you feel, no, it's not possible in this situation or that situation? Sure. Yeah. Yeah, very important. Be present. Be where you are and think, what can I do now, right now? Yeah, with what I have and what I know. Often the biggest areas where we feel loss is when we have regrets. Anybody never had a regret in their life about anything? No, I haven't. Yep. We all have, to a greater or lesser extent. We've all regretted something. And this aspect of regret always keeps me in that place. It keeps me feeling guilty. It keeps me feeling shameful. And I'm always in a deficit, you know, in terms of myself. And if I keep myself in the past as opposed to, you know, where am I now, then I can't really ever experience that truth of my true self and my true nature. Because in essence, we are good, we are perfect, we are pure, we are peaceful, we are loveful, we are joyful beings. And actually, we all have wisdom within us. We actually all really know what to do, but sometimes we don't go with it, right? Have you had that feeling when you regret not going with your gut feeling? They say gut. It's true, because your gut does react. And then you think, you know what? I knew that. Why didn't I do it? Why didn't I say it? I should have. What was I thinking? Yeah. Okay. So it happened. It happened. But don't dwell on that now. You know, learn from it and move on. A big part of not experiencing loss is learning to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself once and move on. That's it. Nobody can ever take you back to that place again and say, remember that time when you did that. Remember, you know. Some people want to keep reminding you, you've moved on. So this is a healthy moving with the flow, with time. I had a college friend years and years ago, talking about 50 odd years ago, and I saw her a couple of, maybe a year back now, and the only thing that bugs her is she says, "You've changed," and I'm like, "Hey," and every time I see her, she says, "You've changed. You weren't like that. What is this now?" And she just has a hang up about me having changed. And the next time I saw her, I said, "Well, of course I've changed. We've all changed. And it's good to change. It means, we haven't moved. Of course we change. It's not a bad thing to change." But she wanted to hold me in that time frame, of the way we were and, in college and things like that. And she didn't like this other person who I was. But recently when I saw her, I could see she'd softened, She was okay. She was getting okay with this new me for her. And this is what happens when you don't accept change, You feel she in a sense was feeling, oh, she's not the same friend I had, Yeah. She's seeing that as a loss, but it isn't. Because we all change. No one stays the same. I mean, if I look back to what I was like as a teenager and a young person, I don't even recognize myself. I think, really? Was I really like that? Did I really used to get upset about these things? Did I really used to think that? That's natural. That is the flow of time. So that's natural that we grow. And we grow and we change and we learn and just keep on developing. Always have this attitude that there is no loss with anything. It doesn't matter which way the tide's going. There's no loss as long as you are growing and learning and evolving, I would say. It's about evolving higher and higher towards understanding your truth. And this is actually what Raj Yoga meditation teaches us, and it's what that really appealed to me, Okay, who am I? Great, now I know who I am. It's not who you think I am or who they thought I was or who my college friend thought I was, It's not defined by anybody. It's an innate truth that we are actually all. You are an amazing, invaluable, special soul. There's no one else like you, right? There's no one else like you. I can't do the things you do, and you can't do the things I do, and yet we all have value. But I have to find my own value. If I don't find my own value, I will always be in a sense of loss, no matter what's happening. No matter what's happening. So I have to find my value and live in it. That's it. It's not really hard. Okay, now challenge me and tell me it is. Very quiet. Yeah? Does it make sense? Or not? Yes? Okay, good. So it's not just me talking about something you're not sure. Any other aspect of this subject of going with the flow without loss? Go with the flow, but don't follow the crowd. That's one thing I'll say. That's a different thing. Following the crowd, being like a sheep blindly. If somebody's going towards a ditch and you're just following them, that's not called going with the flow. That's a different. Yes. He wasn't expecting that question. Mhm.
Thank you, sister, for the session. And there was a thing which you were saying, like accepting the, which is inhabitable, like especially if someone is passed away. And recently, I've seen one of my cousins, her husband passed away. I was really worried, though I couldn't able to do much from here. I was constantly worried with that. I'm not able to take out the time to talk to motivate. And recently, I've asked my mom. She said like she is fine. It's like I said, half. So she said like she accepted, and I said like how come she have accepted such a big loss in her life? She don't have any kid. I was thinking like she might be hopeless. Some people I have seen that they cling to that stuff. If someone passed away and then don't want to leave it, you're stuck over there. And someone I found that they just accepted that fact and focus on things which they can do further. So why there's a two mindsets everyone is like following. Even I feel like some thoughts negative when I get in mind, I get frightened with that. How to accept those things, because these things are obviously inevitable. Something might happen in the future which we cannot change.
Thank you for that question. It's a very good question. There are reasons why we respond differently, why we don't all respond the same. And it's something that I learned here about, the nature of the experiences which I may have had in my life. So they may set me up, if I've always seen negativity or sorrow or violence or something, then I may be predisposed to expecting, the worst. Or if adversely I've always felt very loved and comfortable in my life growing up, then it's almost like I have some tools, to work with these things. However, having said that, sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes some children, some people have had everything in life, and yet they're still very, very unhappy and ungrateful. And there are some who have had nothing, they've had to struggle, and yet they've turned out to be very, very together people with a sense of forgiveness and generosity of heart. So where does that come from? Well, there's one thing we haven't mentioned here, but in Raj Yoga, we understand that I am not the sum total of just these experiences in this life since I was born, but that I have had previous experiences from previous lifetimes. Now, that might be new for you. You might think, oh, I've never considered that. In fact, I came from a background where I only believed in one birth. I had no concept of rebirth or anything that was new for me. But it made sense to me that I would be maybe bringing some past experiences. And so that's not allowing me to see positively. So that is also a reason. However, the good news is, whatever my experiences have been, whether I'm generally positive or not positive, you can actually create that new way of thinking in yourself. And that's where, this lovely picture on the back, the anatomy of thoughts, comes in. Because thoughts are my creation. I am not my thoughts. So where previously some thoughts, generally, like you said, fearful, you can actually change your thinking pattern. Therefore, you will now begin to change your awareness and your responses to situations, whereas before you couldn't deal with it. So the good news is, I am a soul. I am not my thoughts, but I am the creator. So I can actively change my pattern of thinking, my perception of difficult situations, and therefore I can change my response. And when I do that, I literally change my personality. That's why my friend couldn't recognize me anymore. And she said, what's this now? You're doing meditation and all that. Where has this come from, She couldn't recognize it anymore, you see, because to her, I've completely changed. But I haven't. I would say I have become what I always was, but I didn't know. Now I know. So the good news is you can become free from past experiences. There's a lot of victim consciousness today, big posters up everywhere. I can get asthma now and again. Not a lot, but I can. And I remember every year when I go to the doctors, big posters, are you a victim of ask, are you a victim? I kept thinking, I'm not a victim. I have it, but I wouldn't call myself a victim. Some people will. They say, oh, yes, I'm a sufferer. That was it. Are you a sufferer? And I thought, well, I'm not suffering. It's a condition and I can manage it. But it depends how you see it. So through positive self-awareness, you'll never see yourself as a victim in any situation for a start, no matter what's happened. And you'll never see yourself as a sufferer. You'll always see yourself as accepting what the limitation is. And this is what going with the flow is without loss. And you will do what you can within it. Maybe it means making lifestyle changes. Maybe it means changing your diet, which I have done recently, by the way. I have had to do it for my health. I kept ignoring it, falling back in old habits. And I thought to myself, I've had enough now. I can't cope with the pain. And I have changed it. So you become more proactive. You don't worry anymore about, oh, well, I've got this now, but you set about doing what you can. Okay, so that's the good news. Don't be defined by your past experiences. They happened, they were there. Guess what? I can write a new script right now. And you can. Okay? So she obviously was able to do that. And she's focused on that. And that's why she was able to do it so fast.
I also found that when people don't have anything, like they lost everything. So she lost her father as well as her husband. Her mom is only left. I found that when people don't have anything, they just become more stronger because when they feel like they don't have anyone to rely on, right, they just start feeling like now I'm the in charge, and I think so that's the empowering part.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We all have an inner resilience that kicks in even in our darkest moments. If I were to look back on some of the things I've been through, I don't know where the strength came from, but it was there. And that does come. But I'll tell you another deep secret. If you really want that strength, like I felt, when my son went in for that operation, your connection with the divine is crucial. Whether you believe in God or not, you might think, well, I don't believe in God, so who am I connecting with? But there is a higher source. You don't have to call it God if it bugs you. It honestly doesn't matter. We know everything is made up of energy. Science tells us that. So just understand that there is a higher source, just like the sun is the highest source of energy for the physical world, right? It exists. In the same way, for me, the spiritual being, there is a spiritual sun. See it like that, and know how you can draw from there to empower you and sustain you and keep you whole. That's all you need. You need to learn this art of having yoga. What is yoga? Who knows what yoga is? Give me some ideas. Just say a few words. Connection, yeah? Anything else? Union. You've done the Raj Yoga Foundation course, I can tell. Very good. Yeah. Yeah, it's not being able to, wrap your leg around your neck, thank goodness, because I'd never be able to do it. It's not connecting any of that. It's not even breathing exercises. It is literally learning the art of connecting your thoughts with divine source and allowing that energy to come to you and help you when you need it. When you need it, it will be there. But you have to, like any relationship, what happens when you go to a friend and they say, oh, I haven't seen you in a while. What do you want something, isn't it? So we remember that friend when we need something, but we haven't been investing time in nurturing that relationship. What will the friend say? They won't be very happy. So we don't use God, we nurture a healthy relationship. It's loving and meaningful. I don't go to him because I need anything, which is what we used to do in the past, right? But here, I go to him just because he's there and because I appreciate him and love him, and I can have a relationship of, mother, father, friend, teacher, beloved, anything you want. And then when I need him, he's there, you see, because he's constantly in my life. So you'll never experience any loss. You can't lose anything in that, right? Okay, thank you. We might be at time now. I think maybe. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much for listening. I hope you're taking away something that's useful for you that perhaps you hadn't seen before or hadn't thought about. But do take the time to practice this path of meditation because it is really our lifeline. So now we'll just have a few moments of actually experiencing what it's like to be connected with ourselves and to be connected with the divine source. So sitting comfortably, if you have anything in your hands, I would suggest that you put it down. Have your feet resting comfortably, your hands resting comfortably in your lap or by your side. And let's just be present in this moment now. And we'll begin by taking a couple of deep breaths in, which is very, very good to just slow breathing down, calm the body, and get myself ready to be focused. So when you're ready, take a deep breath in through your nose and hold for as long as is comfortable. And then gently breathe out through your mouth, releasing all the air. One more time, deep breath in, hold, and breathe out. And you should actually feel your body relaxing physically, your back relaxing into the chair. Pay attention that your feet are relaxed, legs are relaxed, back, arms, especially the shoulders are down and loose. And even the muscles in my face now are very soft. And I'm just present here. And I take my attention to the center of my own forehead. I imagine that I am seeing a tiny point of light, infinitesimal, pure light, like a tiny star sparkling in the center of my forehead. Just keep your focus on this tiny, tiny, vibrant point. Gentle focus. And if your mind wanders, very gently bring it back. And just observe the stillness, the beauty, and yet the power of this point of light. I am this point of infinitesimal light. I am this being of eternal, immortal energy. I am the one who gives life to this body, but I am not this body. In all the changing factors of the flow of life, this one truth remains constant. I am immortal, eternal, pure, peaceful, loveful, blissful, a being of wisdom, a being of joy. Take time to know this truth about yourself. Appreciate it deeply. And now take your awareness even further from your own forehead and imagine that you are connecting through an invisible subtle line of connection from your forehead up past, outside the realms of the earth and the planets and the pull of gravity, and you enter into a realm of light, a world beyond time, beyond any ebbing and flowing, a world of silence, sweet silence, where there is no movement and no thought, but just peace and the feeling of bliss. And in this place, I realize there is another being, a higher being, a bodiless being who never enters into my world of movement and action and change. Here I am in the presence of my Divine Mother, Father. The rays from this being are full of benevolence and love and acceptance and healing for me. And whenever I wish, I can come into this world and just allow the rays of this love wash over me gently, bathing me and healing me and nurturing me. I belong to the Supreme Soul, whom I had forgotten. And one day I will return back here to this realm of golden red light, into this world of bliss. So whenever I feel things are too much, I can simply, through the power of my awareness, come back home to this world and simply rest in the presence of the divine. Now gently bring your awareness back to where you're sitting, to your surroundings. If you've had your eyes closed, gently open them. Take another deep breath in and breathe out. Om Shanti.
So we have a question online. So the person said, I'm trying hard to change my pattern of thinking as my responses to situations is unhealthy. So she's got OCD and anxiety. Is there anything specific that I should focus on while meditating?
Thank you for that question. So I'm assuming that you are a meditator, but you're struggling with these things. Just carry on and keep a constant practice. This is something I say to everyone. Constancy is very, very important. Even if you go to the doctor, if you can't sleep, they'll say, well, go to sleep. Go to bed at the same time. Have the same ritual, the pattern. So the repetition will eventually begin to train your mind to accept, oh yes, okay, this is what I now do. So don't lose hope. You're doing the right thing. And be kind to yourself. Really celebrate what you're doing. It's wonderful. And you will get the results.
Thank you. Thank you, Sister Meera, for sharing so beautifully. And the point I'd like to underline was about acceptance. And actually, when we were selecting this theme, it was to mark the International Day of Water. It was a few days ago. So that's where we got the word flowing. like you were wondering why we use the word flowing. So that's what it is. Okay, so this weekend we have, it's Easter weekend. So just to let you know that our Sunday online meditation and Monday evening online meditation will not be there. And yes, we had advertised the Raj Yoga course from Monday, starting on Monday, but we'll start it from Thursday because it's being a bank holiday Monday. So I hope it's not causing you any inconvenience. But the online meditation, the fast track ones, from 6th April to 12th April, we'll still do it because that's manageable. And that's 6 a.m. in the morning, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. And a lot of people enjoy that time to do meditation, learn about meditation before going to work. Also this Saturday, coming Saturday, we have another Raj Yoga meditation. So we have quite a few different ones different options in this month. So that will be from 12 to 1:15. So that will be every Saturday for 8 weeks. And this Saturday as well, we have a standalone session about building self-esteem. That's from 2 to 4 p.m. And next Tuesday, our theme is going to be contentment as strength. So same time, 6:45 to 7:45. Okay. So lots of Raj Yoga courses. You can go online to see exact dates and times if you haven't captured all of that I've said. And product of week, I'd like to announce the 7 tools for coping with fear and uncertainty. And by chance, I happened to flick at one of the pages to read something to you, and it's also answering the question that came. So this is rescue remedies. If you feel you have messed up in some way or failed at something, ask yourself, what would my best friend say to me? Consider what you would say to a good friend if they were going through the same situation. This may help to appreciate the bigger picture and to let go of any negative feelings about what you have done. So I hope that kind of supports the answer she gave. And I wish you all a safe journey home. And thank you to the online viewers as well. Shanti.